Finally, it has arrived. The updated version of the best hybrid skill build in the game, Slaughter.
And if you don't know, now you know.
Dubbed Slaughter, this is the hybrid skill build that started it all. That is the arms race to create the best hybrid skill build in the game, which is all relatively subjective. But let me make a case on why my favorite hybrid skill build in the game is the best one. So as a heads up, this is gonna be a little bit longer of a video because in the background, I am doing a solo legendary with this build. And I gotta tell you, it was an absolute cakewalk. It basically made this solo legendary, which isn't the hardest one in the game, granted, but it made it feel like a heroic mission. I breezed through it very casually, and I think you'll be able to do it too if you watch closely my steps, where I park it and where I place my skills. To give you a little history here, so I created the original Slaughter build many, and I mean many seasons ago. And the original Slaughter is so finely tuned. It reigned as my favorite hybrid skill build up until this day. And we've made many versions. Every time the game delivers a new piece of gear that might benefit or fold into a Slaughter build to improve it, then we take a stab at making an updated version. So there's many versions of this, and many of you have tried them. And if you're a fan of Slaughter, like I know many of you are, then this is gonna be one you definitely have to try. And it's actually pretty easy to make. What Slaughter did is open up the hybrid game for us. In this community, we've been running hybrids long before they became popularized in the Division 2. You see, making a strong skill build is pretty easy in the Division. Honestly, it just is. All you basically need are 6 skill tiers and the right talent combination depending on what your preference is. That's it. And then from there, you know, if you want to add skill damage, do it. If you want to add skill haste, do it. Or crits, do it. Whatever. They all work. And your skills are going to be maintained to be strong because they benefit mostly from the talents and the tiers. So that led us down a long journey of trying to make hybrid skill builds that could top Slaughter or offer unique value, something different that might cater to your playstyle or a different playstyle or different types of content. So from that, we created the perfect blend. This was a long time ago, but it was the hybrid striker build where we took the striker gear set and hacked it into 6 skill tiers. And it's very useful and has been further discovered and popularized in the game. It makes the capacitor build pretty darn good. And we call it the perfect blend because your skills are strong and your weapon are strong. But what the perfect blend fails to bring to the table is the added survivability. And Slaughter has that. Slaughter has the kill power and the survivability. It's quite amazing actually and what it can do. And then we came up with the game over build, which is a hybrid skill build built on the Foundry gear set. And that one is a legendary build mostly. And it's also amazing because it gives you the additional ability to spend lots of time out of cover and extreme survivability. And then we had the build called the Contender, which is the true Patriot hybrid skill build, which is amazing for group play, so it brought some unique value. And there's many more. And if you haven't discovered it yet, then let me introduce you to the hybrid skill build playlist that we've been maintaining for years now. And so this is the best of, all tried and true and tested. So peruse through that at your leisure. So let's get into the build details. This is a layered system of offense and defense and is extremely effective in legendary, solo, group play, and of course, all heroic content. Okay, let's start with the capacitor. So the capacitor received a great improvement from Project Resolve. So you can now run damage to targets out of cover on it instead of damage to health. So a ton of help here in making this weapon feel powerful, but it gets assault rifle damage and damage to armor on top of that with a really fast reload. And then capacitance, this is giving you 60% skill damage. And then the weapon itself is powered by all its skill tiers, and we have 6 of those, so this weapon is formidable. And if you look at the mods, it's got 10% crit chance, which is nice, and 30% crit damage and handling, as well as more rounds. For the backup, I'm using the mechanical animal. It's also an assault rifle, but this can throw you into overcharge from time to time when you need it. I don't use it too much, but it's there. And then I'm running the TDI card just because it's on theme. The backpack is pretty important. You're gonna wanna run the memento. And so I got weapon damage, armor, and a skill tier here, and I'm running protection from elites. So again, layered system of defense. The memento is a big part of it. Notice we have 1.3 million in total armor on this build. If you're not familiar with running hybrids, 1.3 million is a lot of armor for a hybrid skill build. Kill confirmed is what this is all about. I know a lot of you know what the memento is, but I do have to explain it a little bit because of how it makes the build work. So we're gonna get 5% weapon damage on kill, and then when we got a full 30 stacks, we're gonna have 30% weapon damage. Great for the capacitors because it's gonna be hitting and you're gonna like the way it feels. But we're gonna get 10% bonus armor per blue core, so that's key because that's a ton of survivability for us, and we have 3 blue cores. So every time we get a kill and we snag that trophy, we have the ability to snag that trophy with this build, you're gonna get 30% bonus armor on kill. Okay, and then when you got a full set of trophies, which happens pretty quickly, you're gonna be running with 3% armor regen on the build at all times. And that's just from the backpack. There's more regen on the build than that. And then we're gonna have 30% skill efficiency, and that's a banger. You're gonna get 5% skill efficiency for every skill tier, and every time you snag a trophy, that's gonna be 30%, and it's stackable, so 30, 60, 90, and so on. And then you're gonna have a base layer of 30% skill efficiency when you have a full set of trophies collected on your backpack. So we call that skill efficiency includes everything. So like skill damage, skill health, skill haste, duration, status effects, repair, making it an absolute essential and really helpful for legendary because you need that duration, you need that haste, and you need even that health because they're welling on your skills. Let's swing on over to the chest piece. So I'm running Brazos, which is gonna end up being 3 pieces of Brazos. I ran it originally different in a live stream, and I decided to go to the 3-piece Brazos because it just felt really good. It was undeniable. Brazos gives us skill haste, a skill tier, which is allowing us to run more armor on the build, which by the way, you can turn into a weapon damage core if you feel like. But I feel like the memento pays us back in dividends with the armor and bonus armor combination. And then we're gonna have 50% larger magazine, and on the capacitor, it's just undeniable on how good that feels and how many times those extra rounds get me out of trouble. It's amazing, especially when it looks like you're about to get overrun. And there's quite a few moments when that almost happens, but the larger mag saves my butt. So we got 61 rounds in the capacitor. Okay, so this is your basic combination. So these are the layers of defense. So you got your armor, then I have armor regen as a sub attribute to make our armor regen overall stronger. And then we have skill damage, and then we have protection from elites. So protection from elites, why is it important on this build? Well, it protects not only your white armor, but your bonus armor. It's extremely handy for elite explosives, by the way, because in legendary, the elite drone lady and elite grenadier are some of the most difficult guys to kill. And protection from elites also protects you from the chungas and their stingers. And here's something for you, as well as the end bosses, like aggro, for example. You know how he has that pulse? So protection from elites protects you from that pulse too. Okay, kinetic momentum. So when in combat, each skill generates a stack while active or not on cooldown. Stacks increase your total skill damage by 1% and total skill repair by 2%. Anyways, 15% skill damage per skill. Of course, we're running 2 of those. Now, the original Slaughter build runs glass cannon. And I forgot that detail actually when I created this build and tested it, but I still want to recommend glass cannon for you or give it a try. I know a lot of you are not glass cannon fans, but if there's one time you need to run glass cannon, it's going to be on this build. But the reason why I'm offering it to you today with kinetic momentum is because it felt so good and I just demolished this legendary content, and it really did feel like it was on heroic. I just was like, well, shoot, it was a mistake, but I'm sticking with it. But if you go with glass cannon, that's going to make those 61 rounds coming out of your capacitor even stronger, as well as the skills. Now, this whole build is cyclical in the way that it works, and that's why glass cannon is actually a really good idea on this setup. But hold that thought, because I'm going to circle back on that in just a second. But let's get a couple of these other pieces out of the way. So here's the Brazos mask. It looks just like the chest piece, right? But I put a skill tier on this one. And so we got armor regen, skill damage, and more protection from elites. And then the Picaro's holster for more weapon damage. I put skill damage on this one, and then a skill tier. So these Brazo pieces are hopefully very easy for you to find. You might already have them. You're gonna wanna run 1 piece of Palisade. So this is the other addition that the latest gear has blessed this build with. This is giving us that 10% armor on kill, armor regen, more of that, and then skill damage. You could also put a skill tier here too. This piece shouldn't be too difficult to farm. The armor regen isn't essential, so if you get something else there like skill haste, just take it until you find the armor regen. I do suggest armor regen, but skill haste isn't the worst thing. And then the death grips is another 10% armor on kill, and this is skill damage with the skill tier. These are Dark Zone exclusives. The best way to farm them is by accumulating named item caches, which you can get from Danny, you can get from global events and rewards tracks. They normally come with an armor core, which is useful for this build, so it can be difficult to find one with skill damage already on it. So just go ahead and stick with the armor core there and then re-roll to skill damage, and then put the skill tier on your palisades, because that will be easier to farm. You could probably craft this one until you get it. So the assault turret's running 109,000 base damage before all the buffs. Remember, we got kinetic momentum. You can have 30% skill efficiency off the backpack and 60% skill damage off the gun, and potentially glass cannon if you're running that. We got 68,000 on the striker drone. And you're gonna want to run technician. That's gonna give you 10% more skill damage, additional damage to robotics, great for legendary, as well as an extra skill tier. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that this build is cyclical, and what I mean by it is that there's a really nice synergy between the skills, the gear pieces, and the weapon. And that's why glass cannon is really attractive on this build, because when you kill, it gives you more defense and offense. For example, you have 20% armor on kill, and you have 30% bonus armor on kill. So when you get a kill, you're gonna have an effective 50% armor on kill. Of course, you gotta snag that trophy, which this build can do, with or without glass cannon. So for example, if you decide to run glass cannon, you're gonna be powering up your skills so that they kill faster, so that you heal faster, so that you get stronger. Because when you pick up that trophy, you're also driving skill efficiency because the memento is gifting that to you. So you're getting your armor on kill plus more damage out of your skills, and a little bit more out of your weapon too, just a little bit more. So your skills get better at killing. They become more efficient at killing, which means they're gonna do better at healing as well. So by no means are you invulnerable, but you got a lot of defense in here to give you time to escape or to counter any offensive that these baddies might throw your way. So earlier I said it's really easy to make a strong skill build, but it's not so easy to make a great hybrid, because there's a lot you have to balance as part of its equation. Because if you take your build too far one way, then it'll be lacking in another way. And the concept of the hybrid is really to bring your skills in balance with your survivability, your added survivability, as well as your primary weapon. You want your primary weapon in most of these hybrids to feel really good, unless it's a tank hybrid. There's different type of hybrids, right? You got your tank hybrid skill builds, and then you got your attack hybrid skill builds, or ones that are bringing in crits and primary weapon damage at a higher level. And then you have ones like Slaughter, which are perfectly balanced. So this brings all three things together in a balance. And just a quick pro tip, don't let those skills wander too far. Keep them relatively close to you, because they're your cloaking device. If you ever wondered how to be invisible in the Division 2, yeah, it's these two skills. So they distract the enemies so well that they don't even notice you standing right next to them. And if you let your drone take off and fight the back of the battlefield, then it ends up picking up a lot of damage all on its own and gets blown out of the sky a lot. So if you keep it in relative short ranges, it has better survivability, because that way you're able to focus fire with all three threats, your drone, your turret, and your primary weapon, on the targets that are trying to shoot your drone down. You can get a faster time to kill that way and take out those threats more tactically. But from time to time, you do need to take out a drone lady in the back, or at least occupy her. So yeah, send your drone there if you have to. As far as stats, you know, not much to see on the offensive side here, but on the defense, we're showing our 20% armor on kill. The armor regen isn't a true armor regen. That's just the base armor regen from the sub attributes. The memento is going to throw in about 35,000 more armor regen. So that puts you at about 50,000 armor regen per second. That's going to fill in the gaps on the armor on kill nicely. So you're going to get 20% armor on kill. But as you're trying to get that kill, you're going to be regenerating your armor in the background too. So they work together nicely. In case you're curious, the other way I originally ran this is I was running the Gila mask, the chill out, and added an extra protection from elites on this thing. But one of the reasons why I decided not to is, well, you know, there's not a ton of elites in Legendary, but if you decide to take on Tidal Basin or the Zoo, try that. Try the Gila mask and put on an extra protection from elites and see what you think. And the second reason why I decided not to do that is because I know some of you are kind of newer to the game and you might not have the chill out mask. So I didn't want to restrict the build or come up with a bunch of pieces that are difficult for you to farm. We already have the 511s. That's good enough, right? If you don't have those, they are worth a grab. From here, I'm going to let the gameplay do the rest of the talking about this build. Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is Tuxedo Bandido, and this was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
When you buy a game from Ubisoft, enter the creator code Tuxedo Bandido to support the channel. Easy peasy.
Follow me.
I get it.